Distinguished panelists, dear friends, good evening. We have this discussion, which many may find the topic rather unusual, but has been done deliberately. There has been very rare time when India has been so much in demand. Like a bride whom three top bridegrooms want to woo, of course. The US, the top, the China, the power tipped by many observers to replace US in whatever time in future, and Japan. And Prime Minister Modi has been trying his best to have best relations with all the three. So we sometimes see these bilateral relations. How bilateral are they? You go to Japan, but India-Japan relations you want to see only in context of India-Japan, then you are missing out something. Is the shadow of China not hovering over? Whether certain things have not developed, because Japan will like to take into account the US position on that. You talk about India-China. What was the US there? The China always talks about. We will see in discussion how and what many leaders have said. Same goes to the US. US is a pivot or rebalance in our position of act, not only look east but act east. But there are other ideas which influence these bilateral relations. So through the discussion we will try to find out how far these relationships with these three major countries affect our bilateral relations with each one of them. Now, we have seen when US President came here, President Obama in 2010, he said relations with India are the defining relationship of the 21st century. But I was reading last night in 2010, the Chinese Prime Minister almost said the same thing. Relations with India are one of the most important relationships of this century. If you go to Japan, if you read the text, you will see they're also saying without India, you don't have regional peace, you have to have India's voice for global management affairs. So we will try to unravel this mystery, if I can use that phrase, not really right phrase to say, and see how these relationships are impacting and what India's end game is. I think end game is to have relationship with all the three, because when the Prime Minister wants to use India's foreign policy as an instrument to realize his ambitious dream of economic transformation in India and also resurgent India playing a major role in global arena, I think India's relations with all these three countries have to be very good. Without saying much, I will take my seat and we will start the discussion. Thank you very much.
Walker, you were in Tokyo just, I think, for a week back. Press in Tokyo. Our Prime Minister was there last year. So let me ask you a question. During his visit to Japan, the TV was presented the image of two buddies, Jadu ki Chappi, feeding the fish, going to Toji shrine, tea ceremony. It was by all accounts a successful visit. After all, he got pledges of $35 billion investment. But tell me, how far is the fear of China pushing Japan closer to India? My second question is, during this visit, there was neither the nuclear deal nor an agreement on supply of amphibious military aircraft. Was Abe holding back for signals from the US? Now you can try to answer these questions next 5 minutes. If you can't complete, we have second round, you can continue your argument there. Over to you.
Thank you, the Chair. What Modi did with Abe, both in Kyoto and in Tokyo, is part of public diplomacy. What Indian and Japanese Prime Minister did in Kyoto and in Tokyo are part of public diplomacy. About fear of China, rising China in Japan is real, at least for the strategic policy makers and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan. Also to the business persons considerably. that nuclear civil agreement could not be signed. Yes, it was ready. It was much of expectation by the media in India, not so much seen in the Japanese media then. There are real problems in the negotiations which are being overcome gradually. With Japan, nothing comes suddenly. It's too slow a process of decision making. So India has to wait. About defense technology transfer, you mentioned about US-2 Shinmaiwa amphibian aircrafts. Yes, talks have advanced even as late as last week between our defense minister when he visited and the Japanese defense Minister, Mr. Nakatani. It is most likely that we get US-2 amphibian aircrafts, at least 1.3 billion. Remaining 12, that is India's requirement, I think will be made in technological collaboration in India in the due course.
Let me ask one more question because you still have time. At India conclave in Delhi just a few days back, Japanese Prime Minister Takeshi Yaki said, Japanese industry considered India the most promising investment and there was synergy between Modinomics and Abenomics. Is this synergy only propelling them to work more closely than ever? Doing Malabar joint naval exercise with India and the US is one thing, but forming a formal informal trilateral axis to counter Chinese influence is totally a different ballgame. Do you think this whole idea of trilateral axis of US, Japan, and India is merely figment of the media imagination?
There are two parts. One, business, India, Japan, in the long term. Yes, the real problem is of infrastructure in India. To help improve that, Japanese are helping us out, which is also part of the $34 billion in next 5 years, including ODA. The other part, China factor. China factor always looms large whenever India and Japan get together. Not just in the last visit of our last PM summit, even much before that this has been a speculative area. Yes, the US, Japan, India, the combined democratic power is far more versus the Chinese power. Chinese expansion in recent years, especially in the maritime affairs, is a cause of concern for Japan, plus other factors from the neighborhood, problems with South Korea, problem of North Korea, with Russia territory, with China territory, all this combined, it is a matter of concern. In the long run, certain that Japan looks to India as a partner. We began our relationship with Japan as a supplier of raw materials. Now we are proud partners, global partners in many sectors. Thank you.